Welcome to Biography with Plutarch, where we delve into the lives of extraordinary individuals, seeking to understand the intricacies of their character and the forces that shape their destinies. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey through the life of Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th President of the United States and one of the most pivotal figures in American history. The rustic charm of Point Pleasant, nestled along the banks of the Ohio River, provided a serene backdrop for Grant's early years. His birthplace, a humble abode on the outskirts of town, stood as a reflection of his family's modest means, yet it was within these walls that the seeds of greatness were first sown. His early years were marked by a simplicity that belied the greatness he would later achieve. The son of Jesse Root Grant and Hannah Simpson Grant, Ulysses grew up in a family that valued hard work and education. His father, a tanner by trade, moved the family to Georgetown, Ohio, when Ulysses was just a year old, seeking better economic opportunities. This relocation would prove to be a pivotal moment in young Ulysses' life, as it exposed him to new experiences, people, and environments that would shape his worldview. The historical context of Grant's early years was significant. The United States was expanding rapidly, both territorially and economically, with the Industrial Revolution beginning to take hold. The air was alive with the promise of progress, as steamboats churned along the Ohio River and railroads began to stretch across the continent. In this backdrop, young Ulysses spent his childhood surrounded by the rolling hills and forests of Ohio, developing a deep love for horses and the outdoors. His parents, though not affluent, encouraged his curiosity and supported his educational pursuits, recognizing the importance of knowledge in an increasingly complex world. As Grant navigated the landscape of his youth, he was influenced by the strong work ethic of his father, who toiled tirelessly in his tannery, and the compassionate nature of his mother, who instilled in him a sense of empathy and kindness. These familial influences would later manifest in Grant's leadership style, as he balanced unwavering determination with a deep concern for the welfare of those under his command. Ulysses's early education took place at local schools in Georgetown, where he demonstrated a keen intellect, particularly in mathematics. His aptitude for numbers and problem-solving would serve him well in his future military career, as he navigated complex logistical challenges and made strategic decisions that would alter the course of history. However, it was his appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point that would prove to be the first major turning point in his life. Despite initial hesitation from the congressman who would nominate him, due to a misunderstanding regarding his name, Ulysses was known as Ulysses rather than his full name, Hiram Ulysses Grant. The young man's determination and support from his community eventually secured him the place. This early display of perseverance and resilience would become a hallmark of Grant's personality, as he faced numerous challenges throughout his life with unwavering resolve. At West Point, Grant excelled in disciplines that required practical application, such as horsemanship and artillery tactics, while struggling with theoretical subjects. This dichotomy would later reflect in his military career, where his instincts and experience often guided him more than theoretical knowledge. The Academy's strict discipline and emphasis on character development also had a profound impact on Grant, instilling in him a sense of duty and responsibility that would define his future actions. One anecdote from Grant's time at West Point stands out as particularly revealing of his character. During a cavalry training exercise, Grant's horse, York, refused to jump over a high hurdle. Undeterred, Grant calmly dismounted, adjusted the saddle, and remounted, successfully clearing the obstacle on his second attempt. This episode showcased Grant's ability to remain composed under pressure, think critically, and adapt to challenging situations, a combination of traits that would serve him well in the heat of battle. The years at West Point were formative for Grant, not just academically, but personally as well. It was during this period that he developed close friendships with fellow cadets, including Frederick Dent, who would later become his brother-in-law. These relationships played a significant role in shaping Grant's values and principles, as he learned to navigate the complexities of human relationships and build strong bonds with those around him. As we explore the early life of Ulysses S. Grant, it becomes evident that the seeds of his future greatness were sown in the fertile ground of his childhood and young adulthood. The interplay between his personal experiences, family influences, and the broader historical context set him on a path that would lead to remarkable achievements and challenges. It is within these formative years that we find the first glimpses of the man who would one day lead the Union Army to victory in the Civil War and navigate the complexities of the presidency with a steadfast commitment to principle. As Grant graduated from West Point in 1843, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army, marking the beginning of a distinguished military career that would span over 2 decades. The pomp and circumstance of the graduation ceremony still lingered in his mind as he donned his uniform, adorned with the insignia of his new rank, and prepared to embark on a journey that would take him to the farthest reaches of the country. His first assignment was with the 4th Infantry Regiment, stationed at Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, where the rolling hills and lush forests of the Midwest stretched out before him like an endless canvas. It was here that he would meet his future wife, Julia Dent, the sister of his friend Frederick Dent, whose family's influence and social standing would later play a significant role in Grant's career advancement. The barracks themselves were a hive of activity, with soldiers drilling on the parade grounds, the sound of rifles firing, and the smell of gunpowder hanging in the air. Grant was immediately drawn into the rhythm of military life, rising before dawn for reveille, attending to his duties with precision, and retiring to his quarters at night to pore over maps and strategy manuals. It was during this time that he began to develop a deep understanding of the inner workings of the Army, from the intricacies of supply chain management to the art of tactical maneuvering. As Grant's early military service progressed, he found himself deployed to various outposts, including Fort Texas, where the vast expanse of the American Southwest stretched out before him like an unfurled map. It was during the Mexican-American War that Grant first demonstrated his bravery and tactical prowess, particularly during the Battle of Chapultepec in September 1847. The memory of that day was etched into his mind like a scar. The sound of cannons blazing, the smell of smoke and sweat, and the sight of men charging into the fray with bayonets fixed. As a lieutenant, Grant volunteered to lead a group of men to capture a strategic location, demonstrating his willingness to take calculated risks and his ability to think on his feet. The Mexican-American War proved to be a formative experience for Grant, as he observed and learned from the commanders he served under, including General Zachary Taylor and General Winfield Scott. He was struck by their differing styles of leadership, Taylor's boldness and decisiveness, Scott's attention to detail and strategic thinking. Grant's experiences during this war would later influence his own command style and strategic decision-making, as he sought to balance caution with boldness and strategy with instinct. Upon returning to the United States, Grant was assigned to various duties, including recruiting and training new soldiers, which helped him develop strong organizational skills. He traveled from town to town, giving speeches and rallying support for the war effort, his words dripping with conviction and passion. It was during this time that he began to understand the importance of morale and motivation in military success, and he took great care to instill a sense of purpose and pride in the men under his command. In 1852, Grant was stationed at Fort Vancouver in the Oregon Territory, where the dense forests and rugged coastline of the Pacific Northwest stretched out before him like an uncharted wilderness. He served as the post's quartermaster, responsible for overseeing the logistics of supply and transportation. This assignment allowed him to hone his skills in a critical area of military operations, as he coordinated the movement of troops, equipment, and provisions across vast distances. However, Grant's time at Fort Vancouver was also marked by personal struggles, including feelings of isolation and loneliness. In letters to Julia, he expressed his longing for her presence, writing, "I would much rather be with you than to have all the honors and riches in the world." The words poured out of him like a confession as he struggled to reconcile his duty as a soldier with his desire for love and connection. The years that followed were marked by a series of assignments and deployments, each one shaping Grant's skills and character in subtle but profound ways. And then, in 1861, the American Civil War broke out, like a storm cloud gathering on the horizon. Grant was appointed as the commander of the 21st Illinois Infantry Regiment, which he led to several key victories, including the capture of Fort Donelson in February 1862. This triumph marked Grant's first major success as a commander and earned him national recognition. As he accepted the surrender of Confederate General Simon B. Buckner, Grant famously stated, "No terms except an unconditional and immediate surrender can be accepted." The words hung in the air like a challenge, as Grant's unwavering stance would become a hallmark of his military strategy. The following year, Grant's leadership played a pivotal role in the Union victory at the Battle of Vicksburg, which gave the North control of the Mississippi River. The campaign was a masterclass in strategic thinking, as Grant's tactics, including his decision to march his army around the city and lay siege to it, demonstrated his adaptability and cunning. The fall of Vicksburg was a turning point in the war, as the Confederacy's last stronghold on the river was breached and the Union's grip on the South tightened like a vice. As Grant's star continued to rise, he found himself at the center of a maelstrom of activity, with politicians, generals, and journalists all clamoring for his attention. He navigated this treacherous landscape with a combination of tact and determination, always keeping his eyes fixed on the prize, victory, and the preservation of the Union. And yet, despite the chaos that surrounded him, Grant remained focused on the task at hand, driven by a deep sense of purpose and duty. As Grant's military career reached its pinnacle, he became the general-in-chief of all Union forces, leading them to ultimate victory in the Civil War. The weight of responsibility rested heavily on his shoulders as he navigated the complexities of war, making crucial decisions that would shape the course of American history. His leadership and strategic thinking played a pivotal role in securing key battles, such as Vicksburg and Chattanooga, which ultimately led to the surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox. The war had left an indelible mark on Grant, and he carried the scars of battle with him long after the guns fell silent. Despite his tough exterior, he was deeply empathetic and understood the human cost of conflict. He once wrote, "I have never felt any sort of fondness for war, and I have never advocated it except as a means of peace." These words encapsulate Grant's complex and often contradictory nature. A warrior who longed for peace, a leader who sought to heal the wounds of a divided nation. As the dust settled on the war-torn landscape, Grant's popularity and reputation earned him the Republican Party's nomination for president, which he won in 1868. As the 18th President of the United States, Grant worked tirelessly to rebuild the nation, strengthen the federal government, and ensure the rights of formerly enslaved individuals. He surrounded himself with a team of dedicated advisors, including Secretary of State Hamilton Fish and Attorney General Amos Ackerman, who shared his vision for a unified America. During his presidency, Grant oversaw the passage of important legislation, including the Ku Klux Klan Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1875. These landmark laws aimed to protect the rights of African Americans and curb the violence perpetrated by white supremacist groups. Grant also supported educational initiatives, such as the establishment of Howard University, which was founded to provide opportunities for African American students. He believed that education was key to unlocking the potential of newly freed individuals and empowering them to become active participants in American society. Despite facing numerous challenges, including corruption scandals and economic downturns, Grant remained committed to his vision for a unified America. He faced intense criticism from some quarters, particularly from those who opposed his policies on Reconstruction and civil rights. However, Grant refused to waver, driven by a deep sense of duty and responsibility to the American people. After leaving office in 1877, Grant embarked on a world tour where he was greeted with admiration and respect by foreign leaders and citizens alike. This journey allowed him to reflect on his life's work and share his experiences with global audiences. He traveled to Europe, Asia, and Africa, meeting with monarchs, presidents, and ordinary people who were eager to hear about his military campaigns and presidential tenure. As he traversed the globe, Grant was struck by the complexity and diversity of human experience. He marveled at the ancient civilizations of Egypt and China, and he was moved by the struggles of oppressed peoples around the world. These encounters broadened his perspective and deepened his understanding of the interconnectedness of nations and cultures. Upon returning to the United States, Grant began writing his memoirs, which would become one of the most celebrated works of American literature. As he sat at his desk, pen in hand, he poured his heart and soul into the pages, recounting his childhood, his military career, and his presidency. The writing process was therapeutic for Grant, allowing him to process his emotions and reflect on his legacy. Grant's memoirs, published in 1885, just days after his death, offer a unique glimpse into the mind of this remarkable individual. As he struggled with throat cancer, Grant worked tirelessly to complete his life story, driven by a desire to provide for his family and leave behind a lasting legacy. The memoirs are a deeply personal and introspective work, filled with vivid descriptions of battle scenes, poignant reflections on loss and grief, and insightful commentary on the human condition. Grant's writing is characterized by its simplicity, clarity, and humility, making his story accessible to readers from all walks of life. Ulysses S. Grant passed away on July 23, 1885, at the age of 63, surrounded by his loved ones. His death was met with an outpouring of grief from across the nation, as Americans mourned the loss of a hero who had given his life to the service of others. Today, Grant is remembered as a complex and multifaceted figure, a military strategist, a statesman, and a writer. And yet, it is precisely this complexity that makes Grant's story so compelling, so relatable, and so relevant to our own lives. As we strive to understand the intricacies of human nature, we would do well to remember Grant's own words. The art of war is simple enough. Find out where your enemy is. Get at him as soon as you can. Strike him as hard as you can, and keep moving on. These words may have been written in the context of war, but they also speak to the human experience, our ongoing quest to navigate challenges, to overcome adversity, and to find our place in the world. In the end, Grant's story is a powerful reminder that leadership is not just about achieving greatness, but about serving others, empathizing with their struggles, and working tirelessly to create a better world for all. That's all for today's biography with Plutarch. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that understanding the lives of remarkable individuals helps us better understand ourselves.